and thank you to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my experience on webcast. I have been webcasting for almost 8 years or so. I started off with a module in pharmacy because I'm from the pharmacy department. That was an essential module on medicinal chemistry, which is my area of, this is what I teach, all right? So that was what I did. And I did that for about 3 years, and then later on, well, I proposed a GEK called Drugs and Society. And that, of course, drew a larger audience, a larger number of students, around 300 students. And I also proceeded to webcast my lectures. So I can only share with you my experience, all right? I think you will be surprised to find that webcasting is actually more prevalent than you would imagine, all right? I was just, I got an email from my faculty, the associate dean who was in charge of undergraduate modules, and he gave a list of faculty members who did webcasting in semester 1. And I could easily see that there were nearly 20 faculty members who are doing it. So it is increasing in popularity. So I would just want to give you a brief outline. I don't have very many slides, all right? I have as many slides as those points there. So I will just share with you why webcasting would be of, or rather why and when you would consider doing a webcast, right? And from your students' perspective, from what I gather, you know, from the students who have undergone through my modules, I get a sense of what they like and what they do not like about webcasting, right? I hope I have read them correctly, so I'm sharing them with you here. And then the bolts and nuts, you know, about, well, how do you go about webcasting and so on, and then the final words. Well, you would consider webcasting seriously if you have a large class. In the Faculty of Science, it is mandatory, right, that if your class size is hovering around 400 to 500 students, which is quite common in faculties like departments like chemistry, life sciences, and so forth, they would ask you to launch a webcast, right? And the reason they never actually say the reason why one should consider that, but I guess once you have a class of 500, it becomes very impersonal. And webcasting is a way of getting in touch with the student, provided the student logs in and listens to the webcast. Then he feels as if you are talking directly to him, and maybe that is some gratification, all right? So a large class, consider webcasting. Now, another one that my own interpretation is that if you are teaching a module that is widely perceived to be a tough module, then you find that your students, actually this should also be under the students' perspective, your students will truly appreciate it. Students, at least we know, I see some, well, I think not all of us are local here, all right, but Singapore students are rather hardworking, right, and they bring their discipline from the A levels, O levels, and all that from the junior colleges down to the university, and many of them are very serious about their modules, and you will be surprised at the number of times they would be reviewing those lectures if they are available on webcast. And they will come back to you with questions, which they will post either in the discussion forum, but for my experience, I find that students, they tend to shy away from discussion forums for some reason. They don't like to post their questions there, but rather they will write to you directly. And then they will ask you, okay, you know, can you please elaborate on this? No matter what you do, even if you put an anonymous option and the students do not need to reveal their names, they just do not like it. Normally what I do, I mean, this is a little bit of an aside, is that I will gather all the questions and my answers, my responses, and then I will post them into the discussion forum. And it becomes like a FAQ for that particular session. And and it's like, all the questions they were thinking about, but they never asked, you can find them there, right? So that is one option. So if you are teaching something that students perceive as a tough module, you may not think your module is tough, but the students may feel uncomfortable with it, then you should do a webcast. And then the last point is on delivery issues. Now, none of us here are perfect deliverers. We have got our own bad habits and so on. And you will know when you have delivery issues. Like I have a delivery issue. I tend to speak too fast. And I find that prior to webcast, I used to get a lot of comments through my student feedback. You are going too fast, you are going like a train, and blah, 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 all right? So I sort of get the message, all right? And I then decided, well, what could I do about it? And webcast appears to be a good option because the students can hear you again. And that might be of some, I thought that would remove all those nasty comments, but they are still there. I gather that those are the students who did not listen to the webcast. So if you have delivery issues, all right, like you're too fast, that's a good idea, all right, to do webcasting. And the other thing is if you have a strong accent, right? I mean, some of us, we have accents that the students may not grasp immediately. They need time to get used to you. And 13 weeks is not a very long time. You know, they need time to get used to the way that you talk. And webcasting is one way because they can hear you again and they will get used, then they will know, right? And possibly that will remove quite a lot of negative comments from your student feedback, right? So that's from my experience. Although I still get comments like she is still going too fast, all right? But well, you can't please everyone. Now, from your students' perspective, I can assure you, your students will like your webcast. They will really appreciate it. Again, looking at my student feedback, sometimes they say the only good thing about the module is that it is webcasted. so that is some gratitude. I do not know what it means, but they will say that it is webcasted and they liked it. All right, and it is a very useful revision aid. The students will, maybe not all, but a certain number, they will plow through your webcast and they will listen again, they will raise questions and so forth. You may not know, but actually, if a student is physically there and attending your lecture and paying attention, he wastes less time as compared to if he were to listen to the webcast. Many times I've got feedback. The students will say, oh, it's just a 1.5 hour lecture, but we actually took 3 hours just going through that lecture again. It just takes more time. So some students are smart, all right? They will come to the lecture and they will listen and they will sort of pay attention. They will jot all the points down. And they see it as, ironically, as a time-saving issue for them. Because if they were to miss your lecture and they have to listen to the webcast, they find that it takes almost double the time. All right? They will say they take more time listening to the webcast. Maybe they rewind or something like that. All right? And that will be, well, that will eat into their time. It is what I call an attendance lifesaver. One thing is that if you are webcasting your module, you will never see the whole class in the lecture theatre. Right? I have, in my GEK, I have about 300 students. I never see all of them. I only see them in the final exams and in the CA, right, when I conduct a CA. Usually, about 1/3 of them would be there. 1/3. So you will see a lot of empty seats. In spite of the fact that you have a huge LT, it's only about 1/3 of them. And why don't they attend? They don't attend because you have got a webcast facility. So they will prefer to listen on their own time. If your lecture is an early morning lecture, like 8 to 10, well, you know, all right? Students, they will be very late, all right? And many of them find it difficult. Well, when I try to put myself into their shoes and imagine, you know, having to take a bus, maybe from Tampines down, a train, a bus, and whatever, down to campus, they probably would have to start off at 6 a.m. in the morning. So, I mean, I understand that. So, if you have a webcast, your lecture is at 8 to 10, and you have a webcast facility, you may only have perhaps 10% of the class available, all right, sitting down there. They will not be there, right? And the reasons is, well, as I said, all right, there is a webcast facility, so they will just listen. Sometimes they have legitimate reasons. Maybe they are ill, all right? Sometimes, unfortunately, they are hospitalized or something. Then it is a lifesaver. There are some students who go for conferences or some other activities during the semester, and they may be away for 2 weeks or so, and they are greatly comforted by the fact that there is a webcast facility. So one thing I know is that students like webcasted lectures, right? For whatever reasons, they liked it. Well, the nuts and bolts, all right, I don't know how many, I think maybe a couple of you here do webcast your lectures. You do know that you have to make a request for webcasting. There is a form, all right, which is available from the CIT website, and you have to indicate the time, the LT that has been assigned, the venue, and the dates and so forth, and the approximate number. Well, you cannot cater to every webcast request, so they normally give priority to large numbers. I guess if your class size is above 100 perhaps, all right, your request would be viewed favorably. And after that, there's actually nothing else that you need to do. You just go in with your, you have to, all of us do that. We upload our slides onto IVLE for the students to take a look at it. I do know that, well, this, as far as possible, if you have a topic, try to upload all your slides at one shot, all right? It's convenient for the students, it's also convenient for you, all right? And it is particularly good if you are webcasting. So other than that, getting your slides ready and coming in and then just logging in, that's it. There's nothing else to webcasting. It's very unobtrusive. You don't see cameras, you don't see anything, all right? You just use the simple microphone, all right? Although you have to speak directly into it, and that's just about it. Now, another thing is, if you happen to run Q&A sessions during your lectures, not a very good idea. Simply because the student will be out there and then he will be raising the answer, unless you go physically and say, can you please speak into the mic, all right? Then it will be captured in the webcast. Otherwise, in terms of interaction with the class, if you happen to ask questions and someone responds from the back of the room, you are not going to get a very good reception, all right, when someone listens to a webcast. And in any case, in pharmacy at least, we do not have tutorials. We are not like, we don't run tutorials. So we do have class discussions during lecture time. And during that time, I will normally cut off the webcast. I will just write a note to the CIT and say that please do not webcast this particular session because it's going to be a Q&A type session and I would like all the students to be there because it will defeat the purpose. So I will give some prior notice that that should be the mode for that particular lecture. Otherwise, then you just relax and try to enjoy yourself, all right, with, when you're webcasting. One thing is that I never watch my webcast. All right, all right. I don't want to watch my webcast, all right? So I would suggest that you don't do the same unless you really want to know how you sound. I think I know how I sound and it's not very good, so I just don't want to watch my webcast, all right? I let my students do it and that's just about it. So you just relax and try to enjoy yourself when you are doing it. So my final words is that webcasting is becoming increasingly popular as a teaching aid. In the science faculty, as I mentioned, there's a larger number of faculty members resorting to it. It's very unobtrusive, it's very easy to use, right? It's just like talking naturally. There's nothing technically demanding out of it, all right? So, and it will generally be appreciated by your students. This is not the right reason for doing it, but you may find that your teaching feedback scores improve somewhat, all right? If you do a webcast, because the students truly do appreciate it. Right, and you'll have comments coming in, all right, that I hope they won't say that the only thing they like about the module is the webcast, all right? Yes, okay, that's just about it. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I would be happy to try to address them. All right.